In this segment, we want to start to learn how to use the round brush. And as we went over in the segment on materials, round brushes come in different sizes. And it just depends on what you're trying to paint, how big the shapes are, the size of wash you want to paint. In this segment, we want to learn how to just use it to vary our strokes when we're painting more isolated, specific watercolor strokes. The size we can use here is between a 10 and 12. I wouldn't get a brush too large at this point because we're trying to test this out. So this would be as large as I'd want to try to do it. But it's doable. But I'm going to use this here. This is more like about a 10 size brush. And what I'll do is go through the same process we did previously. I'm going to take my ultramarine blue and add it to my palette, squeeze out enough paint, sort of the amount I think I'll need to do this segment here. And if you remember, we took a little eyedropper and dropped a couple drops of water. You can also do that by taking your brush, filling it with water. Okay, so I just dipped it in there, didn't really try to squeeze anything out, and I kind of run it against the edge of the little well here. So it kind of squeegees out the water, and then I move that into the paint. So the paint now is a little more liquid, not so sticky. But we don't want too much water because we want to keep this dark, because as remember from our last little segment, we want to start learning how to adjust the values of our washes by thinking of the well as the darkest value of that color. And then we'll put some in here and add some water. That's sort of a medium value. And if we keep adding water and water, we're going to get a light value. So if we start with that idea of those three different value levels, at least we can now think about adjusting the values as we go along. So I'm going to put some more water on my brush. I just tap it off a little bit, and I take some paint here and put it in the middle. Now, it's still, I can feel that as I'm moving it around here, it kind of drags, like a little bit thicker. It's still transparent, as you can see, but I want to get it a little more. I want that paint to move a little more because I want to paint some longer strokes, and so I want to fill the brush with the paint. And I don't think there's quite enough in here. I want to fill all the hairs of my brush with paint. So I'm going to put a little more in here, out here on the well, around the mixing area, and then add some more water. Now at this point, I can test this out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the brush, and I'm going to actually rest my little small finger on the paper so I can control the brush. And I'm going to draw the brush straight across and vary the pressure. But I'm just going to move my arm. See, my wrist isn't moving. So I start here with a thin line, and I move along and I press down. And then I pull up like that. What I'm trying to do is get a feel for the brush. I need to go a little faster so I get a more of a straight line to begin with. And pull up. So I'm just practicing to try to control this first part, thin line, push down, pull up, like that. Now you'll get a feel for how much paint you need when we start to do some of these practices or paintings. So you need to get enough paint going so you're not just constantly reloading. Okay, I'm going to put a little more paint out here. I'm starting to use all the paint in the well just by painting these strokes here. Okay, and I'll do down, and up. Okay, so I want you to just get used to this. We're going to do another page of doing these and with some other things. Now I'm going to do a vertical. So I'm going to start at the top. In this case, I'm just pulling my arm down. So sometimes when you paint, you want to keep a lot of control. You paint more with your arm rather than trying to do this with your wrist. So down and up, that down and up. Okay, so what you should do now, notice I'm using this old sheet we did on the other segment. If you have a smaller paper, just put a new paper to practice. And then the next thing we're going to do is do more of a full sheet of practice. And so you start, what we're trying to do here is I want you to get used to learning how much paint you need to be doing these sort of practices, how much water to put in the paint so that you're getting a nice flow of the paint in a sort of a medium value, and just starting to get used to the round brush. Okay, so next step, I'm going to take this paper off and put a new paper on, and we'll go from there.